Amanda Lynn, welcome back to Not Real Art.
Hi, thanks. I'm glad to be back.
Well, it is great to have you back. This is my honor because you and I didn't get a chance to really chat. You sat down with our colleague and dear friend, the one and only Aaron Yoshi, a while back. So it's great to sit down with you myself. I've it's my honor. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah, of course. I
Right
love that
on.
Aaron Yoshi is considered a dear friend to many people.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah,
What
exactly.
a
She
good
just has
person.
that energy, right? I mean,
He
it's
really
just, yeah,
does.
yeah.
Mhm.
Right. It's well, shout out to Aaron. And so you are, you it looks like you're at home. You there in the Bay? What's going on? Where are we finding you?
I actually live in Northern California,
Okay.
so I'm about a little over an hour north of San Francisco. Though I was just in San Francisco last night painting, I'm there all the time.
Right.
But yeah, I moved to the forest. So I live
Nice.
in a small town called Forestville, but I'm actually in Santa Rosa right now because I don't have good Wi-Fi in Forestville. So in
Right.
order for us to do this, I traveled a little bit to make it happen.
Yeah, well, thank you for that effort. Yeah, it's
Of
that's
course.
the trade-off, right? When you want to live off the grid, you're off the grid, right?
And
I
it's
mean,
amazing, and
yeah.
it's yeah, yeah.
My wife grew up in Sacramento, and her parents had a place for a while in the Sea Ranch, which was just
Oh
north
yeah,
of I think where
beautiful.
you're at. But it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
gorgeous up there. You're so lucky.
Yeah, no, it's so nice, and Sea Ranch is beautiful. Just kind of the more north you go, the more like magic and mystery, and yeah.
Totally. So you were back in the game last night in San Francisco painting.
Oh,
Congratulations. That's
hold
fantastic.
on,
That must
thank
have
you.
felt awesome.
Yeah. No, I feel very blessed and lucky. It's been quite a year. This mural that I just completed, I started it marking 6 months since my accident. So it was it was a great way to rise up again and you know just be
Like a
back to who I
phoenix
am.
rising from the ashes.
Yeah,
To the
be back to who I am. It was actually a parrot that took me down, so similar to a phoenix rising.
Well, okay, so that's a good segue. Well, let's set this up a little bit
Okay.
because you have the dubious honor of being in our October Halloween special episode, Art World Horror Stories, when bad things happen to good artists. And we started this a while back, a couple of years ago, as an opportunity to actually share, horror stories that artists, have to live through sometimes, and and what do they learn, and what how do we pass those lessons down so maybe other artists can learn from past dramas and mistakes and dramas and traumas.
Yeah,
Um,
a little bit of
and
everything.
a little bit, yeah, right. And sometimes, right, it's all over the place, right? Sometimes it's a corrupt art dealer or dishonest gallery, maybe not paying. Maybe it's an artist, making a bad decision, self-inflicted wound or something, and then sometimes it's physical trauma. It's an accident. It's injury on the job, so to speak, right? Because at the end of the day, so certainly what you do and so many muralists, so many artists. I mean, we don't think about it much because it's sexy, it's cool, it's glamorous, it's fun. It's beautiful work if you can get it. But it's also very dangerous work. It's manual labor, what you do, up
Yes.
high in the sky, teetering from the edge as you're trying to make beautiful art to feed the soul of the community that you're serving. And then, before you know it, maybe there's an accident, something happens. And you had a similar thing happen this year. Tell our listeners about your accident this year. What happened?
Yeah, so my statement about my accident is that I was very fortunate and in a very unfortunate situation. So, like you were saying, we all climb on these huge buildings, we do this wild stuff. I think I know myself, feel a little bit invincible. Um, I did fall. I was very lucky because 2 days prior, I was 65 feet in the air in the Cayman Islands on a really sketchy lift. hanging off the side, doing something wild. You know, if I had fallen then, I would definitely not be here to talk. So, flash forward like 2 days later, I was back in the Bay Area. I was in Sebastopol and I was inside a client's home, and I was using rolling scaffolding to paint a ceiling mural. Which, if anyone's painted a ceiling mural, or as you can imagine, even painting your ceiling, it's really not that easy. It was a peak ceiling, and so you're all day looking up. And so I was using my own personal rolling scaffold. It was about 12 feet in the air, and all day I was painting this jungle canopy. So all day I'd kind of painted around the edge of the room. So I always kind of had a wall in front of me, had my headphones in. I had a lot of time to think about all this. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't really slept. I wasn't taking very good care of myself.
Such a
You
typical
know,
artist.
yeah, and you know, I had my headphones in, and I just like finished outlining the outside of the room. So I pushed the scaffold to the middle of the room to work on this parrot that was flying overhead, and I outlined the whole thing. And I basically I went and revisited the site just a couple of weeks ago. It took me this long to actually do it, but I saw what I did. I thought I knew exactly what I did. I basically reached to finish a tail feather, and I just stepped off. And so next thing I knew, I just like opened my eye. I mean, I didn't feel it coming. I think it was very quiet, the whole thing. Like the client was in the other room, didn't know what happened. It was so basically I stepped off and fell to my right side, and my pelvis took the whole impact. So I hit my pelvis, then my ribs and my elbows took out a planter, which forced my head into my armpit. So I actually lucked out in this way where my head didn't hit the tile, and so it was just my side of my body took the impact instead of my head. And the first thing I thought when I opened my eyes was, why is there paint all over his books? You know, like, and I wasn't really comprehending why I was looking at books. I was just like, I don't understand, you know. And then it started to like all come to, and then I tried to like move and realized that something was really wrong. So
Wow.
yeah, I started moaning, and he came in and called the ambulance, and then I have
Wow.
all kinds of funny stories after that because I'm me and weird stuff happens. But the atmospheric river of Northern California was happening
Right.
then, and the
Right.
sky opened up. The EMTs finally get me out into the ambulance. We get in the ambulance down this way country road. They're like all frantic around me or going, and within like 2 minutes, I was like, did they just fall off the road? My ambulance fell into a ditch and had to be towed. It was
Oh
like,
my God.
so you can imagine like your whole body shattered and like every movement. It was pretty intense. But we made it to the emergency. It took about an hour, I think, to get to the
Uh,
hospital. But
oh my God. There's so many layers of this. This last bit, about the crashing ambulance reminds me of that saying about, the importance of staying healthy because if even if the importance of staying out of the healthcare system because it will kill you if you're not
yeah, literally.
careful.
Oh,
Wow. So okay. So we'll get there because I do I kind of want to understand what happened with that.
oh
But
yeah, it's
this is
a
about
never-ending
you. It's all
story.
about you. So all right. So it sounds like to me from hearing this and I'd heard a little bit. I didn't necessarily hear that much detail about what had happened, but so is it safe to say that you were in the zone when you were painting and therefore you just sort of your situational awareness of being on the scaffolding was impaired, right? You were just sort of doing the work and maybe not as aware and conscious of your footing as you should have been. Is it that simple of an
Yeah, and
explanation?
ceiling, so you're like looking up instead of
Yeah,
as if, looking forward.
sure.
Also, most
For
artists that
hours
I
and hours, right? Like, I mean, you were
hours
up
and
there for a
hours.
long
Oh yeah,
time.
I
Yeah.
was like halfway through the day. Most artists that I talk to do the same thing, but there are things called guardrails, and you can put them on your scaffolding.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I never do that, and neither do most of my muralist friends because they get in the way, which is what they're supposed to do. So that is also my fault. I didn't take the safety precaution. Had I, even if I was in the zone, I would have bumped into the railing, and then I wouldn't have, I would have checked myself, and then instead of like just stepping forward. So, yeah, I was at fault. That's what happened.
Well, okay, so let's, well, God bless you, right, for being, what's the word? I mean, just sort of like, uh, being honest with yourself about how it happened, and because that's the only way, right, that you're gonna prevent it from happening again. But it's
Yeah.
sort of very typical, right, of because I'm speaking for myself, right? I'm convinced it's not going to happen to me, right? Like whatever it is. Oh, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And so the fact that you weren't putting on the side railings, was that something that you used to do and you stopped doing? It sounds like you often didn't put them on there, and that was just because you felt confident that nothing was going to happen. Like, why not use the side rails?
Because they get in the way when you're working.
God damn it.
I know. I mean, I've
The
literally talked to
irony.
so many muralist friends of mine that are like, God, I never use this guardrails, and now I'm like this advocate that I'm like, put your guardrails up. Yeah, I mean, it literally, that's why. I mean, when I go to rent them, I finally own my own scaffolding, but anytime I go to rent them, I'd be like, oh, I don't need the guardrails. And then they'll be like, no, we have to give them to you by law. And so there's that reason.
Yeah, you don't have to use them by law, but we have to give them to you by law.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it wasn't something that I did prior unless I was on like a major, union type job site and they make you do that stuff. But, yeah, no, I mean, because it's just as you're moving your arm, but now looking back at it, it would have been fine to have them up because my arms were above my head, because I was painting the ceiling. So I just didn't really think it through.
Maybe
And
a
like you
shock
said,
collar, like how dogs have shock collars? You can just put an
yes, yeah,
electrified
a
perimeter.
little electric line, yeah. I will
Well,
say
because you wouldn't be. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't really like using scaffold anyways. It's like not really
Right.
I prefer a ladder or a lift. Because I've
Interesting.
thought
Yeah.
about it a lot. With a ladder, you're kind of holding on, you're very aware of your body, and with a lift,
Yeah.
you're locked in or going up and down. So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
And you're likely not going to use a safety harness 12 feet up. I mean, they're just going to end with the scaffolding, right? Because I mean, even if you fell out of a scaffolding with the safety harness, the scaffolding would probably, I don't know,
Fall over.
move or go over, right? Like probably
I
topple
feel
over.
like if I had, a lot of people said that. I mean, I don't think you ever really lock into scaffold like that. But even if I did, I would have pulled it on myself and probably
Oh, right. Then you die by the
killed
collapse of
myself with that too. Yeah,
impaled
it
by
would
the.
have been like a whole other thing on top of
Oh
me.
my God. Oh my
The
God.
other side broken. So,
Wow, people. Become an artist at your own risk. I mean, you know.
absolutely, the mural game is no joke. This heavy equipment. I mean, the stuff that you learn. You're out there driving this insane equipment that is thousands of tons where you could like, I've broken through like irrigation, like all kinds of systems. You have to be like really aware of what you're doing. I mean, you're a heavy equipment operator, so yeah,
Yeah, there's this whole blue collar manual labor aspect
absolutely.
to this. Yeah.
There really, really is, and I have mad respect, and I get up crack of dawn with all of them, and like it's a thing. But it's a world I
Absolutely.
really enjoy. Hmm.
Well, right, because I mean, I've never painted a mural in my life, but I have built things and done things, and you use your body, you're creating something, and you're outside, and I
Hmm.
mean, it's so rewarding at the end of the day. Good, honest, hard work,
Same here,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, wow, wow. Well, and I mean, let's not forget, let's just recap for a minute that 2 days prior, you were in the Cayman Islands, 65 feet up in a janky lift, pushing the limits of safety in the Cayman
Yeah.
Islands.
Oh yeah. I mean, what a smart idea. I should probably definitely stand on the railing of that machine to reach to get something. But I will admit I did have a invincibility, like a little bit of a complex, like I love to climb on stuff, and
Right.
this has checked me a little bit. I felt like some who's ever surrounding me was telling me, okay, we're gonna mess you up because you need to check yourself. It's gonna be pretty bad, but it's not gonna be fatal. So,
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a wake up call, right? A shot
yeah,
across the bow, as they say, right? A warning shot. And, but it, listen, it's just complete human nature, right? Because you figure, well, nothing's ever happened before.
yeah,
I'm the same person, right? So I'm just going to keep doing it the way I've always done it because it's never been a problem until it
exactly.
is, right? And
Yeah,
and I'm reminded of the old phrase, plan for the worst, hope for the best, and that's kind of it. And like I'm just so grateful that you were down to come on and talk about this because I think this is a really important message to get out into the world, to get out to these young kids, if nothing else, who are starting to, they're inspired by your work. They want to be like Amanda Lynn. They want to paint big murals. And they need to hear that, what, safety matters, safety first. I mean, this is a dangerous game.
it is. And I worked on a music festival industry for a long time with the Sight Up Skies, and it was always a joke about safety last. That was always our joke. And then I was like, turns out it's not a good idea.
Smart comedy people. Yeah, who's got time for safety, man? The shows
Yeah,
must go
exactly.
on.
Exactly.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay. So, goddamn parrot tail feather.
Goddamn parrot.
You know, I
I
mean,
had
I
this.
always
I
knew
had
there
this.
was something about those fucking parrots, man. Can they be trusted? Oof.
When I went back to the crash site just a couple weeks ago, I looked up and that damn parrot was smiling back at me. He had a fucking smile on his face, and I was like, "All right, all right."
Okay, so the parrot gets the last laugh. All right, there's so many questions. There's so many questions. So you fall, you hit, you probably unconscious. I'm guessing for a few seconds anyway. You wake up to realize, or to you see the books. You're like, why is there paint on the books? You start to realize what the hell has just happened to you. Um, it didn't make a lot of noise. It sounds like it wasn't until you yelled out or said something that the client came in, right? So maybe it didn't make a sound. Thank goodness the client was home. Like that's another thing, right? Like
I
how
know.
would you have communicated? If the client wasn't there and you were laying there, was your cell phone on your hip in your pocket? Would you have been able to make a call? Did you need one of those first alerts? I've fallen and I can't get up, that my
I
grandma
mean,
has. Like, I don't know.
I thought about all that. I asked them to grab my phone when we were getting in the ambulance because I knew I needed to tell my people. And it took them a minute to find it. So it was in my back pocket, but I'm sure it flew out.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I thought that I had broken my back.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I like couldn't move. So I mean, I guess if I had laid there for an hour or so, I would have like figured out how to move.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, figured out that I could move. But you're so scared because it's always like they tell you never to move if you've shattered your spine, right?
Right.
So that was like I was really nervous to move because actually the client ran in and tried to turn me over, and I was like, "Don't touch me,"
Yeah.
and I just laid in that exact spot. So yeah, I don't know. I obviously it traumatized him
Sure. Oh
too.
my God.
Yeah, I mean, I felt horrible about that. He's been so kind, and
Well,
you
by
know,
the way, I don't, I'm just I'm gonna ask maybe I'm gonna suggest a provocative thing because, we do live in a litigious world. Artists are notoriously bad things like, business matters, so the idea that, you might have, or an artist would have, insurance for, the project. I mean, the client, it sounds like you knew the client and whatever, that's great. But like some clients might have been really worried, like, oh, are you going to sue them? Like the legal aspects of you being so, traumatized on property. Like, and I'm guessing some of those things flushed out over time, and, we can get to those. But again, I just, because shit happens, right? Like the bumper sticker, shit happens.
It does.
And thinking about how the business layers that need to be there to protect people and insure people, or whatever the case might be. Historically, have you been rigorous about putting together those kinds of things, insurance for the site, and all of that workers' comp stuff? I mean, speak to your experience around that.
Yeah, so that's a major thing, and I've been required for a long time to have that. I actually I got that about 15 years ago. I used to do outdoor sculpture conservation, and so I worked for big museums and everything, and they required it then. So I carry about a $4 million general liability, but that actually covers someone else. So that's like,
Right.
if someone trips on my hose, I can't sue Stanford, they sue me, or they can't sue Stanford, they sue me. So I carry that, and nowadays pretty much everybody asks for that. Not necessarily a private client like this, but most job sites that I go on, they require that. I don't carry workman's comp because I'm my only employee, and so it doesn't cover me.
Right.
But yeah, that's usually required. And yeah, I mean, I was asked by the hospital, if I could put this on him, like if they could get more money from him, but it was my equipment,
Right.
my mistake. Also, I do consider him a friend. He's like, this is my third mural in his home, so
Yeah. Right.
it's just
You're
not
not
my
going to
stuff.
go
I'll
there.
do
It's
something
not
like that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I do have health insurance.
Right. No, but it is, and again, that's why I'm so grateful for you to come on, and you're just, you're obviously so sincere and honest about how this happened, and that's what's so important, right? Because it is, at the end of the day, so many of these accidents that happen to us, regardless what work or we're in or what we're doing. I mean, a lot of times it's negligence on our part, right? Like it's just sort of moving quick, nothing's ever happened before. I've done this a million times, and we just don't maybe have, we're just not respectful of the danger as much as we should be.
And maybe not. I mean, I've been working with a lot of people. I now work with a PT still, who is kind of like a mind and body, and it was also me and my way of doing life and doing too much and
Yeah.
go, and never listening to my body or my mind. And she was the first person to ask me. I met her about 3 months after the crash, and she asked me if I wanted to do the job that I was doing, and I was like, what? And she was like, did you want to do that job? And I was like, no. And she was like, oh, okay, well, that's the beginning right there. So let's really backtrack on that, and maybe when we're approaching things in the future, that if she's like, because if your body has like a physical response where it's like clenched up and it's not acting the way that it should when you're not fully in it, so
Wow.
yeah.
So the body is sending signals. Maybe it's, call it intuition, call it whatever, but your nervous system is sending you signals or sending us all signals, right? That we're probably ignoring, right? It's like, oh, well, yes, I'll power through, or no, I'm just, I'm having a bad day or whatever. But really, her point is we have to listen to those signals because, they mean something.
They do, yeah. It was the first thing my sister said to me, who was 9 months pregnant when I did this, running into the emergency room. She was like, you didn't want to do this effing job. And I was like, oh my God.
Shut up.
I know, I'm sorry.
So you were on record. You had told your sister that you didn't want to do the gig.
I tell my sister everything, but yes.
Wow, so she knew. She's like, "Oh, you jerk! You didn't even want to do this, and now look at you."
Now look what you did. Yeah. We have to birth this baby here in a couple
It's
weeks.
gonna be the last thing you tell her, that's for sure. Um, wow, that's really interesting because yeah. Wow, I didn't expect that dimension to the
Yeah,
story.
yeah. It's ceiling murals are really hard. And
Hmm.
and I just like I had done sort of an overhang on his right beside there, so I already knew that, and it was really physically hard, and I was like, I just wasn't in it, right? So it was
Yeah.
like, but I've talked about this with my trainer. I'm a freelance artist, as any artist listening knows.
Hmm.
It's a job, it's money. You
Yep.
say no, but
They
then what
call
if
it
another
work
job
for a
doesn't come?
reason.
Yeah. Like if another job doesn't come, then are you being stupid because you didn't take the job and all that kind
Right.
of stuff. So, yeah. So
Yeah.
lessons.
All right. So you're laying there, and I have to ask this question, and I have to make an assumption that, given given the amount of ink that you have on your body, I'm going to assume your pain threshold is pretty high.
No, I'm just kidding.
Tough human, tough human. So you're laying there. How soon was it? Because I'm guessing you were in shock, you were in trauma, your
Hmm.
adrenaline was maybe pumping. I don't know. But at what point did the pain set in? And on a scale of 1 to 10, they have that diagram at the hospital, right? The
They
face,
always ask you that. Yeah,
right?
I
It's like,
learned. Yeah,
okay, which face are
one to
you?
10. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
Well, when
10.
the EMTs come in, that's what they
Yeah,
ask, right? Like
right.
everyone comes in,
Yeah.
and when I'm in pain or I'm like insanely tired, I actually get really kind of goofy. Is kind of how I like deal
Mm.
with it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So they came rushing in, and they're like, "Ma'am, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain?" And I was like, well, boys, I have a really high pain threshold, and this shit feels like a 12. And they were like, okay. And I was like, this is
Very,
real.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wow. So
yeah,
was
no,
it
it
was
was
it the worst? Because I have a confession to make, right? So
mhm.
so I've been damn lucky in my life in that I have while I have definitely done so many risky, dangerous, stupid things, I've managed never to really break a bone or end up in the hospital in any major way. And so I'm fucking scared. Like I'm scared of the day that I fucking break a bone because I just don't know like how I'm gonna I'm probably cry like a baby. I didn't so the fact that you had that amount of trauma and pain, I mean, to me is just like really fascinating and so I don't know. So if you don't mind, I mean, talk about what the pain was like, and then how did the EMTs treat you? Because they're not hooking you up to morphine, at that point. I mean, what are they? How are they treating your pain?
Yeah, so I was being really weird. No, so you're laying there on the ground. They have to get you up
Yeah,
onto the gurney, like
yeah,
they got my head all,
yeah.
because they have to figure out what's wrong. They don't know what's wrong with me. So once they got me into the ambulance, they do offer you pain medication. I don't know. I was pretty out of it, and I just, for whatever reason, was refusing it.
Oh,
Uh,
jeez.
I know. Well, they were like, okay, we can give you ketamine. And I like laughed and I was like, well, boys, I'm too old for that anymore. Whatever. Made some stupid joke about me not doing that anymore. And then they offered me fentanyl. And then I was like, fentanyl, so whatever. I was being crazy. But they were like, okay, well, this is going to be like a long ride, not knowing that we were going to like fall into a ditch and all that stuff. So I actually didn't take anything the whole way there. I got to the emergency room, and I was laying there, and everyone was freaked out because actually when I start my murals, I only use black, and I like
Hmm.
outline in black.
Hmm.
So I didn't realize this, covered, like my face was covered and my hands in black paint. So I come into the emergency room, and everyone thinks I've fallen off a roof and that it's tar all over my body. And so like they can't find me. It was because of the atmospheric river. The emergency room was packed, so I didn't have a room. So I'm just in the hallway, like covered in paint. And this nurse comes up to me and she was like, "So I've heard that you're refusing pain medication." And I was like, "Yeah, I just like I wanted to have my wits about me when I got here, so I could call my sister, like figure stuff out." And she was like, well, look, you're about to go get x-rayed and this is not going to feel good. She was like, I'm going to ask you, please let me give you 25 whatever milligrams or something of fentanyl. And I was like, okay. And she's like, I promise you're barely going to feel it. And she was like, we normally give people 100. And I was like, she was like, but you're going to need it. And I was like, okay. So she did it. I go in to get x-rayed. That was actually more painful than anything because they turn you.
Yeah, right, right.
You're shattered and all your bones are,
Oh, yeah, I can't
it was
even.
insane. It took forever. And then I came out and she looked at me and she was like, do you want some more? I was like, well, huh? Yeah.
Smart
She was
ass.
like,
You know
she was
the
like, that's what I thought. Yeah. So, um, yeah. So for those 2 days, that night, all the X-rays, all that stuff, and then I had to sit for a day. Actually, they were too backed up on surgeries. So I had a full day of just waiting for my surgery. So I did. I dipped into Dilaudid and a few other things.
Hey man, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You got a legitimate excuse for
Yeah.
morphine or Dilaudid or ketamine or what? Do it. Take it.
Whatever. I know.
Oh man, oh man, oh man. So okay, so well that's good. I just was. It makes sense, right? That I guess they would have things, in the ambulance to be able to take the pain away. Only if if you decide to take it. And so the ambulance takes off. You're driving in this atmospheric storm, and you end up in a ditch. Now, obviously, you weren't driving. I don't even know if you know what happened. I'm guessing a hydroplane. What do you know? What the fuck happened? Like how the hell it ended up in the ditch?
So on top of everything, this house, because I live out in the country now too, it's like to get to this client's home, you go down a country road, down a dirt road, down a path that has these like 3 speed bumps, which I felt all 3 of those. But it's really, really narrow.
Yeah.
And like it's easy to go off that path road. So this happened in the beginning. So
Right.
as they were turning, we did the first speed bump, and then I felt that like the whole ambulance shift to the side, and I was like, "Oh no, they fell in that ditch!" Like I knew
You
exactly
knew
where we were.
exactly. Yeah.
And I thought it, and they're all looking around and being quiet, and then like it's like discussion about. I was like, oh my god, we have to get towed, but it seemed like it all happened quickly to me. Everything, the EMT coming, the towing, but it could have been alone. I don't know, but they were very efficient and very nice.
But they had AAA, so the tow truck was there in no time.
Because it doesn't sound like there are a million other emergencies going on, but yeah.
Can you imagine if they were like, excuse me, miss, we're in a ditch and we don't have AAA. By any chance, do you have AAA?
Like I do.
It's like, here's my card.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So, all right. So somehow, some way, the tow truck shows up, pulls you out. How long did that take?
It
You
felt like
remember?
that was pretty quick, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I
right.
remember the ride there because I actually didn't know where we were going
Hmm.
because it's a long story, but I had Kaiser Insurance and they don't have a trauma unit where I am, so they were taking me to some other hospital that I didn't even know where it was. So like,
Hmm.
just in my mind of like, I'm fairly good with directions. I was like, where are we? Why is this taking so long? So,
Yeah.
it felt like the tow truck didn't take as long as the ride there. But I'm sure that there was traffic and it was like,
Right.
it was probably a 40-minute drive.
It's not a fair question because I mean, my God, you're so fucking out of it, But I'm just like, I mean, I know I would be out of it, but like, so thinking about time and who gives a fuck, but yeah, I can see how it would be warped, your sense of timing and and all of that, but wow. So you get there and the hospital's packed, the ER's packed. You arrived at the hospital. How long was it before you were seen by a doctor? Given how busy the ER was.
It was a long time. I mean, they took me in an x-rayed, I think, to like, I guess because they had to check internal bleeding. I mean, they x-rayed me right away to see what all was broken.
Hmm.
And then took me back out. And I mean, it must have been because my sister said took a while to get there. So I feel like after that first x-ray, she showed up. And then we sat out in the hallway for a long time, for like a couple hours before I was like taken in to be seen to do more blood work and stuff like that. So
Well, to be clear, to clarify, I'm guessing your sister sat, you laid on the gurney, right?
I did, and we
Yeah.
got placed next to a woman that was pooping herself.
Oh, nice. I heard she was on a plane the other day that took
Oh yes,
that the
exactly.
explosive
I heard
diarrhea
about
took
that
the plane
too.
down. Oh my
It
God.
was nuts. My pregnant sister smelling all that, and this like a nurse is coming around with like a coffee pot having a sniff it because the area smells so bad because like the whole area smelled so bad.
Oh boy.
Um, yeah, and this other nurse was really obsessed with the paint on me and getting it off, so she was like taking the sponge and like slowly cleaning it. It was definitely a skit from a movie going on.
Yeah, that must have really thrown them for a loop. What is happening with this person covered in something black?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't worry,
Uh,
I'm an artist. I'm an artist. It's okay.
I didn't realize how crazy I looked, until someone finally like held the phone up to my face, and I was like, "Oh."
I
Yeah.
hope we have photos of this somewhere.
I was like, I think there's only one really bad one, but yeah,
It's like some people bleed red, you bleed black.
black.
You
I
know?
know. Halloween.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So, okay, so thank God for that nurse that talked you into taking a little bit of fentanyl anyway so you could survive the x-ray. Although it sounds like the x-ray was still fucking miserable and you probably were wishing you took, 100 milligrams, but
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
fine. At least you took a little bit, take the edge off, I guess. I don't know, but it doesn't sound like it. Anyway, so you get through the x-rays. Now at this point, do they, I guess they figured out that it's not your neck, right? Or your spine, right? Like have they
Exactly. So
determined,
that
yeah,
was what all that. Yeah, because then
yeah,
I also did what's it called? CT. They had me in the CT room a whole bunch, scanning
right.
that, my brain, all that stuff over and over again.
Yeah,
And I was internally bleeding, so they were watching that.
right.
Trying I think decide where I was going to go. So they took me to I ended up taking me to the ICU because I was internally bleeding, which
Oh,
I
you
don't know.
were.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone that's been to the hospital, I will have to say ICU is like a godsend.
Oh
It's
yeah.
literally like the penthouse of the hospital. I was so lucky. They were so nice, and I had my own private room, and like yeah,
Yes,
uh,
yes. Oh, to be lucky enough to be in
to be
ICU.
in the ICU. I know it's a weird statement, but but I got taken down to Gen Pop the last day I was there, and that shit was real.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gym pop.
Yeah,
You know what is gym pop. You know what I mean? The only
yeah,
the only cool thing about gym pop is saying gym pop. Like that's the only thing
it's
that's
true.
cool about gym pop is just saying gym pop. That's
I had a
it kind of
schizophrenic
rolls off
roommate
the
too.
tongue. Well, okay, so they figure okay, so they take they take you to ICU. They know you're bleeding, but they also know that well you're broken up. You have some internal bleeding, but they know that they can't get you into the OR. So the move into ICU is to keep you stable until they could get you into the OR. Is that correct?
Yeah, and then I met my surgeon, who ended up being the most amazing human. There were three surgeons, and he was the only one who wanted to take it on. His name's Dr. Axelrad.
Axel
Um,
Rad, are you
like,
kidding me?
of
Of course
course.
he took it on.
And he came walking in all cocky, like the type of guy you want to screw your ass back together. And yeah,
Shout out Dr. Axelrad.
Axelrad, literally. And he thought my story was so funny, because like they get like pretty normal hip fractures and stuff.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, so he came in with this pelvis and he like drew all over it. And he's like a normal person like breaks it here. And he was like, okay, you broke it in 7 places and fractured it in 15. And he was just drawing these lines on it. And he was like, most people, the other 2 doctors say to just wrap you up and you lay there for 3 months. He's like, I propose that we like take a plate here, we do a plate here, we screw, 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 and he was like, and I'll be walking in 2 weeks. And I was like, done, let's do it. And so he performed this crazy ass surgery on me, which I've been told by many people wouldn't have happened like 10 years ago. And so I lucked out again. It's all like very unlucky, but so lucky. And,
Dr.
yeah,
Axelrad, I mean, angels among us and whatnot. I mean, like
absolutely. And beyond that, this man is so awesome that my insurance doesn't cover him. Well, that initial surgery they had to, but I was supposed to be sent back to my Kaiser,
Hmm.
and not go to him after the surgery. And he was like, screw that. I follow my surgeries, and this one's extremely unique. I'm going to see you for free. You come see me every 2 weeks, and we'll get you walking. And like, and I
Uh,
did, and he did, and like, he was amazing. And because the Kaiser people told me not to walk and not to, do anything,
right.
and he pushed me forward every 2 weeks. So yeah, it was pretty incredible.
The irony, though, is that now he wants a ceiling mural, and you're like,
I know, right? He has a winery. I was like, I'll paint you whatever you want. I gave him art, of course. Yeah.
wow, wow. Well, I mean, seeing your, smiling, happy face today, I mean, that was, clearly the happy ending was implied, just seeing your happy, healthy, smiling face today. That being said, I didn't realize that there were levels and layers to the happy ending. Like there are multiple happy endings here. I mean, Dr.
Yeah.
Axelrad was the first of the happy endings that this badass motherfucker walks in and,
Yeah.
builds you back better, stronger, like the bionic woman,
Hmm.
so to speak. And so that's a huge win and a gift from the gods. Then of course the fact that he's takes pride in his art, in his craft, in his
Hmm.
practice, to follow you for free.
Yeah.
Wow.
So crazy. I know.
Um, and
His
and and,
secretaries
and
were very confused when I would come in to sign in. They're like, "Oh, okay, you don't owe anything." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. Here's a magnet."
um, and then you're walking in 2 weeks.
I wasn't walking in 2 weeks. I think he said walking in 6 weeks. I
Okay,
was
he oversold it. All right, that's fine. But
he
six,
oversold
how
it.
many weeks before you? I mean, you weren't. Well, no, you weren't laying there for 3 months in a cast.
I
That's what
wasn't.
you didn't
I
do.
was not. I took my first step without anything on 420. I know that.
Right.
It was a very slow step, but
Yes.
yeah. So I was on a walker for like 3 weeks, and I switched to crutches, and then yeah, and on to
Okay.
like really walking.
Okay. So there's, and then the third or fourth, I forget, I've lost my count. Third or fourth happy ending to this happy ending is the fact that you had medical insurance. Although Kaiser Permanente, you weren't at a Kaiser facility. You have Kaiser Permanente insurance. I have Kaiser Permanente insurance. I used to work for Kaiser Permanente, so like I have,
Okay,
I understand
you
Kaiser
get it.
Permanente.
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah,
Um, but so many artists don't have and can't afford. Let's be clear. I mean, they don't
hmm
have it because they can't afford it. Largely, usually,
hmm
is the case. Healthcare, in this country is a mess. Dr. Axelrad would tell you that, I'm sure himself.
exactly.
God, so what a wonderful, wonderful that you had some insurance anyway. And I, because I didn't know that, so I was kind of curious about that and wondering how that was going for you. So that's, it's nice to know that that's sort of, maybe not as traumatic as it would be for some artists who didn't have the insurance and the
Yeah, I
care
mean,
that
my
you.
hospital bill was $340,000.
Yeah,
So like that's what the bill said.
yeah,
So obviously I had to hit all my deductibles and all that stuff. But I mean,
right,
which is a
right.
lot too, but nothing compared. I mean, I don't even know. Yeah,
You
I don't even know
can't
what.
paint that away. I mean, three hundred
Yeah,
forty
I
thousand
know.
dollars.
I
Like
was like,
Jesus Christ.
yeah, and that
Just
was just the hospital. That wasn't even the surgery and all that other crap.
right, right. Oh yeah, no, you were probably $1 million over. I'm sure.
Yeah.
My wife and I had a situation years ago where she got deathly ill and ended up in the ICU in Paris, France, and it happened to be during those years when we were having our so-called healthcare reform debate, and the politicians and all the rhetoric was, we don't want to be like France, we don't want to be like France. Let me tell you something, we want to be like France. The
Yeah.
amount of care, the kind of care that she got, it just was, nobody should go bankrupt because they need care.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, right? And so
Yeah.
anyway, so that's a whole nother podcast. But so okay, so you are now recovering now after surgery. I'm guessing you went home and convalesced at home, and your sister might have helped you and other friends and family. How I mean, what was care like at home for you? Because do you have a partner? Are you single? Like do you live? I'm just curious because people who are single have a different challenge than people who have a roommate or a partner or a spouse or whatever to help care. So what wagons were circled to help you during those first few weeks after surgery?
Well, I would say I had a circle of witches surround me. So I
Nice,
have an army of
nice.
women.
Oh yeah.
I do live alone. I have my puppy there, and I'm pretty fiercely independent.
Yes, yes.
So I
We
learned a
know
lot
this.
about a lot about it, accepting. That was actually the hardest thing is to accept help.
Yeah.
And so yeah, my ladies just circle around and they yeah, the one thing about living far in the forest up a steep ass mountain where Ubers don't come and you can't get your groceries delivered,
Yeah.
there's like another challenge. It was really beautiful to just view that out of my window as I laid on my couch ship is what I called
Yeah.
it. But yeah, it made it a little like logistically complicated. So
Yeah.
ladies would bring me groceries. I hired a dog walker who would come
Right.
once a
Well,
day. She
let's
was
let's let's honor these amazing women. Name them by name and let's shout out to them.
absolutely. Well, definitely my sister Greta, who also gave birth to my niece Rumi, and I was able to be there a couple of
Woohoo!
weeks later.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah, and of course Lady Mags and my friend Christina and Tina and Erica and Carla and I mean Aaron Yoshi and Gloria and Anne and everybody. I mean, honestly, it
Yeah.
was beyond the amazing women. My friend Samantha, I was like, beyond the amazing women who helped me physically in just that moment, then the entire world, I mean, at least my world, showed up for me in this like way that like almost brings tears to my eyes now. It was like incredibly
Yeah.
humbling
Yeah.
to see everyone come together and like donate to me and yeah,
Right.
it was. It's still people are still trying to like give me money. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm working. I accepted. I'm so grateful and so
Yeah.
honored by everyone's support. It's like a thing
Mhm.
like that where you just don't realize how many people that you've connected with around the world until something like
Right.
this happens. Yeah,
Well, you said the word you said the word I think you said humbling. I mean, it is humbling, right, to realize that we're mere mortals and we break and then and everyone's different, right? Everybody handles trauma differently, but for those of us who are, stubborn and independent and tough-minded, it's hard to accept help, right? Like that, that radical acceptance that, that was probably your own that was another part of this too, right? Like being, accepting that love, accepting that help, right? When you are, by definition, maybe help you're maybe more used to helping others rather than accepting help, right?
absolutely. That's what I do. I'm the helper. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I'm not used to receiving help. Yeah.
Well, and the universe is paying you back, right? Because that's when you realize, like, what, on a certain level, right? You're planting seeds of love and whatever, and then you reap that harvest maybe when you don't expect it, or and then recognizing like, oh no no no, this is the time. Like I have to, I'm supposed to accept this.
And they told me, like they
Yeah.
got mad
Oh,
at
they'll
me and
tell
they're
you,
like,
right? It's like
no,
fuck
no,
you.
no, you have to accept this
Yeah,
because
yeah.
actually you can't go anywhere. Yeah,
Yeah, right, right, right. Look at yourself. Look at you.
yeah.
This is a joke. I mean, what do you, you can't even walk. What are you talking about?
I know, I know.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. Well, so, all right. So you get through those first few weeks, through the love and generosity, and big heartedness of your circle of, did you say witches? Circle of
Yes,
witches.
I did say
Yeah,
that.
yeah, the Wicca circle. Okay, good. And then when did PT start?
So that was the thing. Is like Kaiser didn't expect me to do anything for 8 weeks. So
Yeah.
I didn't get to even see a PT until 8 weeks later with them. obviously I was trying to do some stuff on my own. And then I would say it was about, I found this amazing chiropractor, Vibrant Life, when my sister was giving birth. So that was like early April. I was like in so much pain, and I was just, and obviously she was too, but I like was sitting there on my phone, and I was like, I got to figure this out. So I found this chiropractor. I mean, because everyone's
Did you, I'm sorry to interrupt. I have a question. Did you ask your sister when she was in labor, so tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, what pain level are you?
well, I mean, I said to all of my women, because they've all had babies, I was like, look, if you can have babies, I can deal with this shit, you know? And they were all like, it's not the same. And I was like, kind of feels like my whole pelvis is shattered, you know?
That's right.
The only thing is I didn't get a baby at the end, but you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, I found this amazing chiropractor, and I went to her for a couple of weeks, and she told me that she felt like I needed some more physical. I'm basically smashed in on the right side, you know, so that I needed to sort of like train, get a little stronger in my core. And she had the perfect person, recommended me to Julia at Movement by Design, who is now my like guru.
Yeah.
And she's been kicking my
And
ass ever since.
she's the mind body person.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right. Oh,
yeah.
that
So
insight was just, that's so sage. I mean, you know, that insight of you didn't want to do this. Like this whole thing was preventable on levels that you didn't even recognize.
absolutely, yeah. So, but
Wow.
you know, like I said, lots of lessons to be learned, and I'm sure many more to come.
So before we wrap up, you know, I want to be respectful of your time because I know how busy you are, and I'm just so grateful that you sat down with me today to talk about this. And you know, but trauma is real. You've been traumatized in a real way. I don't know if this was your first major trauma in life. Certainly, if it was, you know, or any trauma, I guess, you know, there's got to be some PTSD going on, right? Like, there's got to be, you know, it's like you just said a while ago, like you just went back to the scene of the crime and, you know, kind of looked at things, and then yesterday you were back on the scaffolding again. You're painting again. So,
Not scaffold. I haven't been on
um,
scaffold again. Yeah,
yeah, right. So
scissor Yeah, yeah.
Well, talk about that. Talk about the to the extent that you're dealing with PTSD, to the extent that it was, you know, hard to go back to the scene of the crime and all that stuff. Like what's that been like for you?
Yeah, I thought that was going to be a lot worse than it was, and I put it off for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, and I had a good friend offered to go with me, you know, to like sort of be there if I passed out, and so that was sort of like. But I realized I really needed to do it on my own, and probably because I'm, like I said, a little fiercely independent, but you know, and I knew that I needed to visit him too, the client, because he was traumatized too, and I'd kind of been refusing to see him or, you know, sort of connect in that way.
Yeah.
And so I went, you know, expecting with all this tension in my body, like kind of, I was scared, and I'm not somebody who's usually scared, and but I went and I pulled up, and his home is so beautiful. It's like he is literally like a feral cat whisperer and like so he has like animals all over this property. And I pulled up, and it was, you know, a beautiful summer day with like flowers everywhere. And I like, you know, pull in, and my mural's already there, and I'm looking around. The gardener sees me, comes rushing over, and was like, "Oh, so glad to see, you know, we were all worried about you and all this stuff." And then I went in, and I thought I was going to be nervous, but it was actually beautiful, you know, and I got to talk to him and sort of let him unleash a little bit of his experience
Right.
with it. And, you know, he was like pointing to the table. He was like, 1 inch and you would be dead. You would have hit that table, you know, all this stuff. So, yeah, it helps. It helps. I walked away feeling lighter because I do know that I am going to go finish that job someday. Because it didn't feel dark and heavy like I thought it was going to. How I built it up in my mind.
Well,
It
can I
actually is
ask yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, well, can I ask a hard question? And maybe you don't know the answer to this. And maybe you guys talked about it. Because it sounds like you guys have a really, you know, friendly, good, positive relationship. But like, was he mad at you?
I think he was let down that I didn't let him come be part of my healing process. He
Oh,
really wanted to come to the
interesting.
hospital right away with me, and I was like, no, no, no. I'm pretty private, and I wasn't
Yeah,
even going to announce to the world that I had done this. It wasn't
right,
till, some friends encouraged me to
right.
do, about doing like a fundraiser or whatever. And yeah, it's just sort of my healing style to like,
Yeah,
I let my women in, but
sure.
yeah, I think that was what he was more upset about, was not me not letting him come and see
That's
me
really
and
interesting, and
be a
that says
part
so
of
much
that.
about him, right? So he was, just to be clear, he was more frustrated with you and mad with quote unquote mad at you for not letting him into your life after the accident. He didn't spend much time being frustrated or angry that the accident happened.
I don't think so, no. And he actually, after a couple weeks, wrote me and said he actually paid for the rest of it, and
Oh,
then said it's
amazing.
perfect as it is, and and it's
No.
not done, it's not done, and it's not like, and so he really, really is a kind human, and
Yeah,
I am, I debated on whether I was going to ask somebody else if they wanted to finish it or whether I was going to do it.
right.
I also, on a PTSD thing, don't think I could ask somebody else to do that because if anything
Yeah.
happened, I would like be
Oh
like
my
the end
God. Right. I
of the
hadn't thought
world.
about that, but yeah, right.
Yeah, but yeah, so I don't think he was mad. I'm sure it was just more like, I mean, I can't even imagine if someone fell in my home. I mean, that would be just
Oh yeah.
beyond. Yeah, and something that I had asked them to do, I would just beat myself up all the time about that. So,
Right.
yeah, so no, I don't think he was mad. He was just, wanted to be closer to me, and I didn't let him do that. So,
Right, right. Wow, what a good friend. What a great, great guy. I mean, listen, accidents happen. I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like that's why they're called accidents.
yeah.
But yeah, it's such a freaky thing. You're so lucky. You are
Yeah,
so lucky
so
on
lucky. Yeah.
so many levels. I
Yeah.
mean, can
Like
we,
I said,
can
I
we
mean, I was very lucky in this unlucky thing that happened.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Amanda Lynn, I'm just so grateful that you came on to our special episode of Art World Horror
Yeah.
Stories. Whoa. Um, to share this because there are just so many important lessons here for all of us. And taking your pain and trauma and turning it into a triumph, taking it into a learning experience, so that we can all you know grow from it and be safer from it so thank you for coming on and sharing this because it's bad things do happen to good artists and you are living proof of that and but you're I don't know how many metaphors I can use, but you're making lemonade out of these lemons, damn it. And I love it. You're so inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's an honor, and I'm super, like I said, it's been beyond humbling, everyone's like support and surrounding this whole thing and me in general as an artist. So, yeah, I just stoked to like actually get to talk with you, and
Yeah.
I've been a fan for a long time, and maybe one day we'll meet in person.
We will,
Yeah.
I look forward to that. And so one parting question is sort of just random coming to me. How has your stamina been impacted? Are you having to build your stamina back up in terms of how you're painting? Because I'm guessing before the injury, you could paint for hours, no problem. Are you having to work in smaller bits now? What's your stamina like?
My trainer told me last week that my lesson was to go home and smoke weed. And I was like, what? And she was like, you need to chill your willpower out. And I was like, so no, I'm still doing 12-hour days. I do, there's some pain. So I'm I'm trying with the real thing that I'm trying to do going into this, what I learned is that I want to enjoy. I do this amazing job. I have this amazing opportunity in life, and a lot of times I'm just so focused on finish something
Mhm.
that I don't really like take a moment to be like, this is cool. I like love to paint. And so
Right.
I'm trying to really approach that and take things, in my mind in a slower way in that way, and it has been pretty beautiful the last, since I started back in. I've like enjoyed my work a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm going a little bit slower in that regard, and probably physically a little bit slower.
Yeah.
But no, I love a good 12-hour day. That's my thing. I know that I gotta chill my will, but
But that is the downside. I mean, that's one of the, I don't know, call it a downside, but that's one of the things of like when you love what you do, it's hard to stop.
yeah,
When you feel like what you're doing is important work, and it is, and you love what you do, and you do, it's hard to stop. We're lucky people, right? That we get to do what we love and be paid for
yeah,
it, so yeah, so sometimes it's hard to quit.
yep, yeah.
But I like
Definitely
the
an
idea of
adjustment.
smoking weed. So go pull a ball.
I know.
I don't know, pull a
I
ball
know.
hit.
I was
Right.
like, usually it's like do this exercise, and then she was like, go lay down.
Well, I'm guessing. It sounds like to me, right? She's got your number, and she knows
She
she's
does.
dealing with a very rare human, and so her protocols probably have to be a little bit extra.
She follows my Instagram too, so she actually knows what I'm up to. Yeah. So,
Exactly, exactly. Well, Amanda Lynn, you're the best. Thanks so much for coming on.
thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. And happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Whoa, trick or treat.